Alright, so there wasn't much news yesterday in the NBA world. The only thing that came out was Kevin Durant defending his teammate JaVale McGee against Shaq from what we talked about yesterday. So we're going to talk about that for a bit, and then we're going to talk about the games that went down. There were 10 games, so we still do have quite a bit to talk about. So let's just get right into it. So like I just said, after Thursday night's Twitter feud type thing, Kevin Durant was asked by the media of what he thought about Shaq basically picking on his teammate JaVale McGee, and listen to what he told them.
Shaq was a shitty free throw shooter. He missed dunks. He airballed free throws. He can't shoot. He couldn't shoot outside the paint. He's bigger than everybody. He didn't have any skill, but he was big and stronger than everybody. And he's still a great player, but you had your flaws too as a player. And you played on 5 or 6 teams too, so it's not like you're just his perfect, center. You had your flaws too.
Say what you want about KD, but in my opinion, he's actually right here. The one thing that he said that got a few people upset was that Shaq had, quote, no skill. But then they overlooked the part where he also says that he's still a great player. Look, when you're 7'2", 300 and some odd pounds, and you look like you can pick up a semi-truck, it's going to be pretty hard to stop you in the paint, which we all know that's where Shaq made his living. He wasn't dribbling the ball, he wasn't doing anything, too crazy, just dunking on people and maybe hitting a little hook shot here or there, which the hook shot thing actually does require just a bit of skill. I mean, there are some big men in the NBA that still struggle with their little baby hook shot. And the entire message was, look, none of us players are perfect. JaVale McGee has his flaws just like you did. There is no need to pick on him at every chance you get. And I gotta agree with that. Look, no one wants to be made out to look like a fool on national TV almost every single day. I'd imagine that just once would be embarrassing enough. Now try imagining having that happen to you every single day. You get fed up like JaVale McGee was yesterday too. Now JaVale McGee does make a play that deserves to be on Shaq the Fool, then by all means, put him on Shaq the Fool just like you would any other player. But it's kind of like bullying when you just keep making fun of him for the same clips over and over again. And if you want to do that, Shaq, then maybe you should put some of your lowlights in there as well. But that's about it for the news though. Now let's get on to the games from last night. In the first half when I was watching this, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of disappointed with what I was seeing from Toronto. Sure, they didn't have Lowry, but they were playing just about the same as they were playing before the All-Star break, even with new additions PJ Tucker and Serge Ibaka, which wasn't good at all. And the Celtics had maybe a 15-point lead or so in the second quarter, and I thought the C's were for sure going to win. But then in the second half, the Raptors actually started trying, something they hadn't been doing leading up until the All-Star break. Of course, DeRozan going off for 24 points in the second half and finishing with 43 points helps too. Final score was 107-97, but it took more than just a DeRozan explosion for the Raptors last night. Serge Ibaka and PJ Tucker were huge in their debuts. Well, you can look at the box score and say, well, Serge had 15 points, 7 rebounds, Tucker had 9 points, 10 rebounds, and say, well, that's good, but nothing special. But these are two guys who bring something that doesn't show up in the box score. Toughness. Mentally and physically, they are tough. The Raptors, ever since their emergence, have been known as a good team, a really good team, but not necessarily a tough team. I remember back when they played against Brooklyn in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, I think it was the physicality of the Nets that got to them. The playoffs as a whole are just a lot more physical than the regular season. And that's why people say that the Raptors are a great regular season team, but struggle a bit when it comes to the playoffs. But with the additions of Tucker and Ibaka, I don't think that will be the case anymore. They finally have some tough, gritty players who don't mind doing the dirty work, which will help them immensely. Just don't expect the same Toronto team from the years past in this year's playoffs. And for Boston, Isaiah Thomas kept his 20-point game streak going with exactly 20 points. That is his 42nd 20-point game in a row. I actually think that this was one of Russell Westbrook's best games. Look, he shot 4 of 18 from the field and had 17 points, so I can see why you would think I'm crazy for saying that, alright? But hear me out. He actually was trying to get other people involved last night. In a bunch of his other games, he would get his numbers, but it would sometimes appear kind of forced. Yesterday, he was just going with the flow of the game, and he flirted with a 20-20-20 game too, which would have been insane. Westbrook had 17 points, 17 assists, and 18 rebounds in the Thunder's 110-93 win over the Lakers. And I can't remember the last time this many Thunder players scored in double figures. Roberson had a career-high 19 points. And Roberson, I know you are a defensive-minded player, and I can respect that, but you can't retire with Ben Wallace having a higher career high in points than you. That's coming from a Pistons fan. Just score a little bit more. Steven Adams had 15 points, and Air Breenes, who was filling in for Victor Oladipo, who had 19 points, and the new additions of Taj Gibson and Doug McDermott. Taj had 12 off the bench, and Doug had 8. And for LA, you got a sighting of a good version of deloading. He, of course, has had a very inconsistent season, a lot of injuries, and when he does play, it's either really good or not so good at all. Yesterday, though, it was really good as he had 29 points, 6 assists, and 4 steals. Nikola Mirotic, if you had more games like this before the All-Star break, then you most likely would have been traded. But I guess if you're the Bulls, you can't complain. If he keeps playing like this, then you probably want to keep him, especially since you need all the shooters that you can get. He had 20 points off the bench. Jimmy Butler did his usual thing with 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 steals. And Dwayne Wade turned back the clocks of time and had 23 points as well. One good thing, I guess, about trading away McDermott is that it should give rookie Denzel Valentine some more minutes. He had 15 points, hitting 5 threes for the Bulls as they get the 128-121 overtime win over the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker led the way for Phoenix, dropping 27 points, and Eric Bledsoe flirted with a triple-double. 17 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds for him. Jeremy Lin has returned. Yes, the Brooklyn Nets free agent catch once again returned from injury, and it couldn't have happened any sooner as he led the Nets to a 129-109 blowout loss to the Denver Nuggets. This is loss number too many to count in a row now for Brooklyn. Well, at least if you're a Brooklyn fan, they have a draft pick this year, so all is not lost yet. Gary Harris led the way for Denver with 25 points, and Wilson Chandler had 24 off the bench. Gordon Hayward might not have done much during the All-Star game, but that doesn't matter because it's all about what you do when it matters. And when it matters, he does a lot. As he led the Jazz over the Bucks last night, 109-95. Gordon Hayward had 29 points. Rudy Gobert does a lot himself too, though. He had 15 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 blocks. And George Hill had 19 points. And for Milwaukee, Giannis looked like the same guy that he was on the All-Star court. He had 33 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 steals. The All-Star break didn't cool down the Miami Heat at all as they pick up right where they left off. This time it was with a blowout 108-90 win over the Hawks. Dennis Schroeder was suspended by the Hawks. I think it had something to do with his visa or something, so he didn't play. And overall, it was just a balanced offensive effort for Miami combined with some good defense that did it. Tyler Johnson led all scorers with 23 points off the bench, and Goran Dragic had 17 for Miami. Unlike the Heat, the Wizards didn't quite pick up where they left off before the All-Star break. Well, Bradley Beal did, as he was still on fire. He dropped a solid 40 points, made it look easy, and John Wall didn't shoot that well, 8 of 21 from the field, but he still had 29 points and 14 assists. Really, it was their bench that let them down once again. Newly acquired Bojan Bogdanovic didn't have the best first impression. He shot 1 of 5 from the field and had 2 points, and the Sixers got the 120-112 win. Robert Covington was actually been having a pretty good year so far, had 25 points for Philly, and Rookie of the Year runner-up, or maybe even Rookie of the Year, depends on if Embiid ever plays again this season. Dario Saric had 20 points and 11 rebounds in his new starting role. A welcome sight for Clippers fans as Chris Paul returns to action. An unwelcome sight for Clippers fans, however, is that their opponents, after facing the Warriors on Thursday night, were the San Antonio Spurs. That's a pretty tough back-to-back for just coming off the All-Star break. And it was the Spurs who got the win and spoiled CP3's return. 105-97 is the final score. Paul Gasol also returned for San Antonio though and dropped 17 points and 11 rebounds off the bench. Kawhi Leonard did his usual thing, scoring 21 points and dishing out 6 dimes. And in his return, Chris Paul had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. Blake Griffin bounced back after an off night against the Warriors with 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. No Nerlens Noel debuted for Dallas last night, and they sure could have used him to at least try to contain Karl Anthony Towns as the Mavs fall to the Wolves 97-84, 26 points and 18 rebounds for Cat. And his partner in crime, Andrew Wiggins, didn't do so bad himself. You know, he had 27 points and 7 rebounds. Ricky Rubio also rewarded Minnesota for not trading him with 13 points and 14 assists. And for Dallas, Seth Curry once again activated his KK Genkai. Props to any of you watching this video that just caught that reference. He scored 31 points. And the snooze fest game of the day goes to the Pacers versus Grizzlies. No disrespect intended for either team. It's just this game was rather uneventful. The Pacers got the win 102-92. You know, CJ Miles led all scorers with 17 points. 17 points led all scorers. When was the last time something like that has happened? Monte Ellis also had 16 off the bench for Indy. And that about wraps up all the action for day 123 of the 2016-2017 NBA season, and now it's time to get into the player of the day. Like always, only players whose team won are eligible to win the player of the day. Just a quick disclaimer there. And yesterday, you guys selected Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in his 33 points, 9 rebounds, including the final 11 points of regulation for the Detroit Pistons as your player of the day. And here are today's nominees. You have DeMar DeRozan in his 43 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Russell Westbrook in his 17 points, 17 assists, and 18 rebounds. Karl Anthony Towns and his 26 points and 18 rebounds, or Rudy Gobert and his 15 points, 16 rebounds, and 3 blocks. You guys can go vote for the player of the day right now. The link will be down in the description box below. Other than that though, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like on it if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more daily NBA recaps. And you guys already know that I'll be right back here tomorrow, so until then, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!